to Insights Podcast, where we explore the world of technology and speak with industry leaders about their experiences and insights. I'm your host, James Gamble, with over 15 years experience from help desk support all the way to IT management. And on this show, we like to dive into the latest trends, hottest debates, and biggest challenges facing the tech industry today. And on today's show, I am welcoming Sal. Sal is the Channel Account Director for Calero. Sal, how are you doing today?
Great. I am doing very well, and thank you for having me on the podcast.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you here. Why don't you give a quick background about you, what you do, and who is Sal?
Sure. So from a Calero perspective, is what I do at the organization is I work with our channel partners throughout the U.S. here. We have a team of 3 of us who are working with them directly to basically evangelize the word of Calero and what we're all about and things like that to help facilitate those conversations to help them with their customers, right? To see if there's any benefit and things like that within their organization. To help spread the word, and then something that can be offered to help their customers, right? That's what our biggest goal is.
Awesome, cool. And how did you get affiliated with Calero?
Yeah, so my past experience, right? I've been in unified communications, customer experience realm for majority of my career, and so I took a ledge or a step off the ledge and jumped into the telecom or technology expense management industry, so to speak, or technology. And so the reason I had an opportunity to come over to this organization is my current leader, Jason Weezer, who is our global VP of channels here at Calero. I used to work with him in a past life at 8x8. And he had the opportunity to hire me, and I had the opportunity to work for him. So made the jump, and now I'm here and working the new kind of software and new world of technology that I'm not used to. So it's been great.
So you went from the land of 8x8, which is more communication based, right, to where Calero, as I understand, is like more of like expense software as a service style for like expense reporting, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So from a Calero standpoint, we are specialized in a technology expense management platform. And what that really means is there's 3, I want to say, main buckets that technology expense management falls under. And so the first one is going to be more or less your telecom expenses, right? So you've got your wireline assets, you've got your communication trucks, your POTS lines, your PRIs, if you still have them out there in the world, and things like the data center expenses, things that need an invoice. You put an invoice in and it can be read and things like that and managed appropriately. The second pillar that we have is a mobility standpoint. So now you have all of these cell phone plans, if it's Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile. We can definitely do an expense reporting on those invoices, those plans that they have with those carriers, along with the devices as well. So we can actually go through the 360-degree life cycle of a platform or of a device, where you procure the device, manage it, set the applications up. And we have like a shop, like you're actually looking like you're at a website from a carrier like AT&T or T-Mobile, and choose your phone, choose your data plan, things like that. And then now you have a phone from a business perspective. And then on the back end, we're running all of those expenses and invoices from that perspective. Then the third pillar, which is our latest and greatest, right, is the UCaaS and SaaS expense management. And where that comes in is all these folks, all these organizations out there, because of the pandemic, we're looking to move to the cloud because people had to work remotely. So if it's your voice services, right, like a UCaaS platform, a unified communications as a service platform, but only, if you're using a Concur application or Adobe application, things like that need to be connected through the internet, right, not at a brick and mortar site. And so they bought all these licenses because they want to make sure that they were ready and for the demise of working in an office anymore, and so working remotely, so to speak. And so we saw that. And now I have all of these licenses, right? I have all these employees, all these licenses, and looking at, okay, how do I manage these? How do I know what I'm spending? Do I have too many licenses? Do I not have enough? So we saw an opportunity to do an expense management solution on those as well. So now you're doing your wireline, you're doing your mobility, and now you're doing your cloud. So that's really taken off. That's the bright shiny object that's in the industry now. And so from that perspective, that's what we're doing here at Calero, and spreading the word.
Interesting. Okay, so I'm coming from a consumer aspect, right? So I
Sure.
have my organization that we have, and similar things that you mentioned is that we use. It's funny you mentioned Concur because we actually use Concur as a
Right.
expense platform. We use, we have stuff in the cloud. Obviously, everybody has internet because internet is needed nowadays. If you don't,
Yes.
then what are you doing? Yeah, and to like everything that you kind of mentioned, I've thought in my mind at least because I'm still I think I'm thinking of it from an expense platform, right? And I think from a leadership perspective or a person actually looking to either purchase some type of platform or something to help, I guess my first question, and you kind of already answered that, but like, well, why do I need a style of expense? Or I have an accounting team, isn't that what they're for? They're supposed to be able to kind of pay the bills and track my expenses and manage it and stuff like that. But from what I understand, and I can jump in anytime, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's more of a managerial style too, to kind of give you your most optimizations towards the product that you're using. For the example of Concur, if I only have 20 people, but I have 50 licenses, there's 30 licenses that I have that I'm paying for that are, that's basically eating up my revenue or that cost.
Exactly. No, you're spot on. And so if you're talking from that perspective, right, if it's Concur or if it's any type of SaaS or UCAS license that you have, you're really looking at, yeah, I have people to run the bills and the accounting department and all that. But when you're talking, we can talk about this pillar where the reason, you have all these, but you don't have the analytics and the insight that's wrapped around all of that, right? So we have one pane of glass where you can see all of the different analytics. You can see the way we can pull all the data in is we have integrations into either an Okta or some sort of single sign-on application. And then so we pull every different application that's tied into that single sign-on. And so you can see all the different cloud softwares that you're using today. And then once you have that, now I can say, okay, here's 5 of them that I want to take a look at from an expense perspective, right? So then we dig into those, and we have APIs into about 10 to 12 different of these applications. And what we can do is you type in your admin credentials, and now we're into the portal, and now you're pulling all of that data from that supplier that you're leveraging, like a Concur. You're pulling all that data in, so you can see when the person's checked in. You can see when the person last used it, signed on, all of that data to see if it's actually being in use. And how we tie it to an HR system as well that the company's using. And so we can see who the employee is and if they have a license, right? So sometimes you'll see where I have no more the employee, but the employee's gone, or says the employee's been has recently left, and then we see that they actually have the license to it, right? So now okay, well, we don't need this license anymore, so you can get rid of it, or you can reallocate it to someone else because you're going to be hiring and things like that. So it's a way to reallocate. So we have an opportunity to recognize the savings, and then we have a way to optimize the savings, right, from that. And so that's the success perspective from leveraging the UCAS and SaaS perspective. But when you're talking about mobility, or you're talking about wireline, or the carrier side of the house with all of your different telecom needs, you're going to have a lot, I should say hundreds, it could be all these different disparate invoices, right, that are coming in from different carriers and different suppliers that you're leveraging today. And so what we're able to do is we have a product that's called True Insight. And what we do is we basically take this product and we feed it to the backend system. We have all these APIs in the different carriers, and they're basically pulling in all this information into like a map. And so it maps out all the different carriers that are tied into your different locations and things like that. So it shows you a nice network map of what you have. And then we take the invoices that you have today and we match those up and make sure that it's actually accurate. So that's step one. And then the ongoing piece of it, right, is the way of if you're getting billed and there's some disputes, right, that need to happen, or there's something, the difference between I got billed this month, then a number of a different cost another month, why is there a change, right? We show red flags, things like that. So we're looking at it with a fine-tooth comb from a software perspective. And then we also, on the back end, we have about 70% of our organization here at Calero is on our is in our operations teams, right? So what they're tasked to do is actually be your managed service and help see all of these different expenses and invoices and things like that. Even load them if you need to every month. If there's a way, that old school way that needs to happen, we have people who can do it manually. So when you're talking about different, folks in the organization, like an accounting team, right? There's just not enough people to handle all of that and look it through a fine tooth comb every month to make sure that your expenses are right. Because think about your own checkbook at home, right? And that's how I look at it from if I was going to be a user of the platform. From my lens, I see it as, here's my checkbook, and I want to make sure that I have all these different credit card statements and things like that, and charges that are coming out monthly, right? For all of my different things, my gym membership or whatever it is, right? But why did my gym membership get charged $20 more this month than it did last month, right? Sometimes you just don't see it because it's on a recurring aspect. But now, if I had a system that would tell me and red flag me that, now I can go and then I can dispute that. Why are you charging me an overage on my gym membership for some reason, right? So that's in a nutshell of how we can leverage the platform to help make sure that you are actually in line with all of your expenses from that perspective. So we can do that on that and the mobility side as well.
That's interesting. I'll share a story with you, that one from a kind of personal finance I just kind of mentioned, and
Sure.
this kind of like real life scenario is that you kind of mentioned, and the work, I see the benefit of it.
Mm-hmm.
And from just as a person in the industry, as far as like having to do expenses and having to do different things with just IT in general, I got a monthly budget that I have to,
Right.
adhere by, like everybody does. And I get invoices in for, say, like, we use Azure in my organization. It's a huge cloud platform, right? And, I just can't spend over $5,000 a month. It doesn't matter what I'm using. I get an invoice and I see the ending dollar figure. If it's below 5,000, okay, approved. I don't even really honestly take the more time to look at it. Now, if it goes over $5,000, obviously, I don't want to get in trouble. So I got to make sure whatever we're using or why it's over budget, and then, fix what I need to. But if it's under, even if I'm spending an extra $600 or $700 that I just didn't happen to look at, I still hit approved. And then so I think that's where kind of your platform, where it looks like, hey, your monthly Azure bill is this like $600 this month than it was the previous month, and I think that's where a huge beneficial area is. And what's
Yeah.
also funny that you mentioned too, sorry, before, is just personal finances, right?
Right.
I had moved different areas where I was at, certain apartment, and the apartment required to have, I believe, some type of insurance. I'm not sure if it's the apartments mostly to have an insurance, and it's like $25 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very small, but adds up over time, right? I think I moved out of the apartment, and then I think a year and a half later, I just happened to check my finances for whatever reason, and noticed that I was getting charged $25 for pretty much like 16 months.
Yes.
And not even kind of realizing it. And I'm like, oh crap, that's, you do the math after that, it's like almost close to like over 300 something dollars. And luckily the company actually was an awesome company and refunded me all my money. But those little things, it's kind of like fall underneath the cracks that, we just don't either think about or look about, or we just kind of think everything is all, fine and dandy, and just don't have those, just the know to really make sure and all those are actually dotting the T's and crossing the I's and really falling in line.
And it's funny you bring that up, because that's a key component. I've talked to a lot of different customers and end users out there since being at Calero, and they have and customers, they have issues where they didn't know that they were paying for a carrier service for about a year and a half or 2 years. So they've been just paying, I don't know, but $2,000 a month, right? They had no idea that they were connected with this, right? So they leverage our platform and they see that, okay, that's something we're not even using, and we've been paying this bill for X amount of months, right? So that's just some of the things where we, again, with that fine tooth comb and seeing all the different, we get to go in and see everything that's going on and be able to help to make sure that you are in line with your expenses. And the beauty about that is, let's say we see a lot of savings and ROI. Right now, the customer can take those savings and the ROI that they're getting from this and put it towards a project that they want to get done, whether it be IT project or another type of project, right? Or they want to add headcount because they're saving so much money in doing this, right? So it's really benefits for the organization, right? Because that's what I think a lot of the I shouldn't say struggles, but just some of the things where people are like, well, why do I need a solution like this?
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, it really comes down to is it should be the first thing that you have, is because, for certain for real small organizations, I'm sure you can have someone really do that for them. But when you get to a larger organization that has a bunch of different, sites and different carriers and different suppliers, just a bunch of different things going on at once, and you have to really dot your I's and cross your T's on that. It really should be the first thing that they're doing, is making sure their checkbooks are balanced, so they're able to keep every penny that they can, especially now in the market, right? You get, unfortunate things have been going on with from a financial perspective and things like that with organizations. So we're really here to help to put that at ease, where we can save them and keep their expenses in line, so we know, or so they know that they can, their budgets are coming in this month, and then they know what their forecasting looks like from future months, things like that, right? We have tools that allow for that, and benchmarking, what's going, what is the latest pricing that's out there for all these different carriers, right? You want to make sure that you're getting the best price possible, right? So you can leverage those savings as well every so often, because things change, right, year over year. Absolutely. And so you want to make sure that you're on top of that, and that's where we can help too.
So the topic of change, as that's something that popped in my head, at least where I see kind of the industry and the trend over the last couple of years is, COVID. Everybody just had to shut down and work from home, and I think industries more or less had this juggling effect of just trying to survive. I think survival mode, and because of that, they would either buy new products. Everybody had to work from home, and so they have a concur for expenses, or just having new services and things like that. To where I think a lot of companies out there probably don't realize some of the things they signed up for. I mean, I know I get emails every now and then like, oh, I forgot I signed up for that certain either account or anything, rather if it's free or something like that. But just having constantly bombarded with a bunch of different things of saying how can it help the business, because it was just survival mode, right? Where do you see the industry like coming? I guess from Calero's perspective, at least, trends and stuff where the industry is going in the next couple of years, and how do you see them helping with that?
Yeah, so that's exactly right. That there's all these shifts, and my background, right, is when I was starting out, I was selling. Right out of college, I was selling Toshiba phone systems, premise based, right? And so as my career has evolved through the years, right, I've moved from a premise type of mindset and company organizations to the cloud, right? Because everything was moving, from the sea up to there, right? So that's where we're seeing the shift. And again, like you just said, COVID accelerated this because of, it accelerated. I mean, look at Zoom, right? For instance, Zoom blew up.
Yeah.
And so that's where we are at as in a technology expense management organization and marketplace. That's where we see the same thing, right? We've been working with the premise type of organizations all throughout, right? There wasn't anything from a cloud perspective or a SaaS or UCaaS perspective. Now we can handle when customers are moving from their premise to the cloud, right? So what are they doing now with those applications? And now, like you just said, people scrounged, they went and tried to stay up and running with all the different applications and just buy everything that they need to from a cloud perspective, because that's what's fast, easy, quick, and it helps people, anywhere in the world you can access it, right? Like you said, if you don't have an internet connection, I don't know who you are.
Right.
But that's where we see the trend going, and that's how Calero really even started this kind of SaaS UCaaS platform, right? Mobility is always going to stay around. Wireline will stay around for a long time. Eventually everybody will go to the cloud unless you're a government or hospital, right? Whatever that is. But from a cloud perspective, the biggest thing is when we started this, and I believe we are pioneers on this, right? So a large customer of ours did this. They had to react, and they had to move their business to the cloud so they'd be able to communicate remotely. And so either was Zoom or Teams, right? One of those different cloud applications, because those are two of the big ones that people could leverage right away because they needed something. And so our customer came to us and said, "Hey, let's see if we can you guys do an expense, on all of our license that we have, from a cloud perspective, especially on our unified communications side of the house, because we bought all these and we just don't know what we don't know." So we went back and we designed it, we built it, we did all that, all the technology background and try to figure it out and design it, build it. And now that's how we really pioneered is we built this thing based on a customer's request. And we're like, okay, this really works. And this really shows benefit. It shows how to optimize and shows savings. And then not only, okay, now we have that, you think it would just be a one-time thing. Okay, now we know how many licenses you have and you don't need them anymore. But how do I keep that from a normal expenditure? Because people are always moving around, right? Every quarter, there's probably moves and changes. People are exiting the business. They're coming onto the business, right? There's applications that they're using that they're not going to use anymore because they're not doing this project anymore. So there's a lot of things that are always moving in the cloud space, especially as they grow with the new trends coming out of a lot of these different cloud things. I mean, what's this new chat thing that's come out, right? I mean,
Open AI, baby. Yep.
Yeah, that's the huge, right? All the AI stuff, right? So that's going to be something that's coming out, in the future for all of the software. So that's really where we're seeing this, and that's why we're really proud of the pioneering and establishment of making this cloud platform, expense management platform, for our customers on that. And so it's really just starting out, right? We're trying to ramp it up as much as possible, but as anything takes, it takes some time, but we're going to get there, and we're going to evangelize the word out to our partners and customers and our prospects. And they'll see the light once they try it, right? All you got to do is you can offer a way to basically log into the application, pull it down, and you can see the benefits right away. So there's a way to try it.
I also think of it from I think of compliance when it comes to mind. And so part of compliance is onboarding and offboarding. And when you kind of mentioned those licenses cases of, said user either got take away a license or add a license to that. It more or less sounds like too, also it's kind of like a management platform to kind of help, almost like an extension of your IT to help kind of with these services.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah. Okay.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can, as far as I would leverage, as a, either IT or business director, you can give access to, leadership within the different business units within the organization, right? And they can see, who they are, right? If they're leveraging the software or not, and if they're not, right, there's alerts and things like that can be automated to send out, emails or some sort of communication to those end users and say, are you still using this? Are you, things like that. And maybe the business unit leader is like, nope, we don't need this anymore. And it sends it out. IT says great. And then they can repurpose it to something else. Right. So there's ways to allow the management team to see different aspects of what their users, their employees are doing and not doing within their applications. And so it's the ability to, let's say, Microsoft Office. Some people are going to need an E5, right? The most, robust license, and some people are only going to need, an E3, right? Because just how they communicate within the organization, if it's internal or do they have to talk external to folks. If you don't have to talk external, you don't need the most robust one, right? You just need a less one. And so there's different reasons and things. And so it's a way to just have a pulse or, a finger on the pulse on all of that to make sure that you're leveraging the best license or best structure, what have you, for your employees and in your business.
Gotcha. I think about a lot of things too, because we have different levels of licenses. You mentioned Office 365. We have a bunch of E5 licenses. We have premium licenses, standard licenses, and goes against different levels in your organization. If you're a high executive level, you get the highest one, and then so on and so on and so on and so forth. Just to kind of leverage to see. And I always come from an instance like, probably not everybody needs that top level license. It's just a standard. If you're said level, then you get this license itself. I don't think anybody really utilizes some of the stuff that comes from E5, such as like Power Apps and Flows and everything else that you get with that. And if I remember off the top of my head, it's a $20 difference between one of the top license to where you just kind of get.
There's a big delta between the top one and some of the mid level ones that are just good enough for everybody.
So in theory, with this kind of expense kind of platform and stuff, and just speaking hypothetical, so I can understand a little better. It's like I'm a person just kind of using it, and I want to observe my IT staff, not necessarily their productivity, but just the programs and stuff that they are using. So if I see that James is not using the flows and the automation stuff with a lot of the benefits that you get from an E5 license, I can then make the business decision of you don't really use that license, so we're going to downgrade you, even though I don't like that word, using downgrade. We're going to change you from an E5 in order to have something that's like better suits you for what you do daily in a business type of thing.
1,000%. You're 1,000% correct, because that's the beauty of our analytics, right? So we actually are based on software, or on our Microsoft, right, is the Power BI, is the tool right behind the scenes that are doing all of the different analytics and reporting and things like that. So the beauty about our platform is our analytics that's wrapped around all of our different products that we have. But in this case, it's going to show you all the different data points that you're just discussing, James, and so we actually have it broken down from the E5 license to E3 and the different attributes that go along with those different licenses, and they can see if they're actually being leveraged. If are they on the phone? Are they? How much talk time is there, if there is any talk time? How much time are they on a meeting? How much time are they in this application? Things like that, right? There's ways to see based on login and all of that. You can see who's logging in where and when they're touching a certain application or not. And so that's one of the big powerful ways of seeing. And like you said, you don't want to use the D word of downgrade, but to change, some people maybe just need a free version, right, of the product, because they're that level of the organization and they're just not leveraging what they need from an E3, right? And so saving, if you have a larger organization, you could be saving thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars a month on some of these things. And really, that's a recurring cost that you have to really take a look at month over month. And so it really, you gotta again, dot the I's, cross the T's, and that's what we allow for with our platform. And that's the big thing. What you can't measure, you can't manage, right? And so we want to be able to help our customers measure as much as possible, just to a point where it's not even, like you said, from a productivity standpoint, but if if they're not using it, they're not using it, right? And that's the thing is why give someone all this fluff if they're not going to leverage it. And so let's right size it and make sure it's the right application, the right license type, all of that, and we have the power to do that for the customers. So
It's funny. I think about the terms too, and also I try to put in day to day. Like, if you're not using it, why have it? I
yeah,
am one of the lucky people who have Google Fiber for my internet here, which
nice.
is crazy
You're
fast.
flying.
Wait,
You're flying.
I am flying, yeah, but it's way more than I need. Do I need like
Yeah,
2 gigabit up and down? No, of course not. I stream Netflix, and that's like barely anything now. But
yeah,
but then
yeah,
if you would ask me like, oh, well, why don't you just downgrade it to something else? I'd be like, no, because it's Google Fiber. Like, I want it.
yeah.
It's a I don't know, kind of a not trying to, like, I feel like above and beyond, but the 1%er type of thing of like,
Exactly.
I
Yeah,
have super fast internet, yeah. So I'm like,
yeah,
I like that, but I see what the cost benefits is though, for sure.
yeah.
And I think it's a good conversation to have because I don't think any IT leader, at least from my experience, really focuses as much on as far as what they're spending monthly. To like really down deep to kind of go through each line item aside from like how I
Right.
mentioned my experience of like, did I go over my monthly budget? Nope. Okay, then I'm good. Let's go on to the next month. And the reality of that is too, you can kind of like, and it sounds like, more or less the way, because I think no matter what, anybody who doesn't have like an expense style platform, the second either your company or Calero kind of gets in there and do the analytics of it, they're going to be a cost savings of something, I'm sure.
Yeah,
And so that
yeah.
almost pays for itself in reality.
Right. And we have tools, right? Our organization has been doing this for a long time, right? And so we've developed tools where we've seen everything. I mean, that's the beauty about Calero, right? We've seen it all. So we've had all the experiences of different organizations. We've got some of the largest organizations in the world, right? And that are customers of ours. So we can just think about the crazy mess that some of those organizations have, right? And how we've helped to right size and fix them from an expense perspective.
Mhm.
And so the thing there is, uh, if I'm not even IT, but I'm procurement, I'm in the CFO's office, right? Type of organization, right? That's where a lot of our customers or a lot of our folks are talking to, right? Are those types of in the finance business. There's a
Sure.
finance arm of the company because they're going to get it. And so how we present with our partners like MR to their customers, we'll come out there and give them, here's your spend, here's all the different things that components that are within your organization that you're spending today. We'll take that again with all of our experience. We'll put in some calculators that we've built, and based on all of that, right, we're always adjusting to different trends and things that are happening within the industry and the market. And so we'll come out and we'll print out, an ROI, right? We'll show them this is the savings you see, and we've done this for, like I said, the largest of the customer of companies out there, and and some of the smaller ones, right? But you're going to see a big ROI. Typically you're going to see a nice ROI, but you're going to see some sort of ROI, right? And so that's why we with every, I would say with every customer interaction, that I don't even see why it wouldn't be an issue, to even just have us come out and do that, right, and show them this is an ROI. I mean, why not take an assessment like that,
Yeah,
based on if I had everyone should have a financial planner, right, and come and take an assessment of what you got, right,
they,
and
they, they should. Yeah, that's
right,
different
and
story,
see
but yeah,
yeah, yeah,
absolutely.
but yes, but it's kind of that nature where let's take a consultative approach and see what kind of savings there are, and say, okay, yeah, I think that could help our business, and then move forward with that.
I mean, it's kind of sounds like a no-brainer. Who doesn't want to save money, right? But
Yeah,
I think of it in the other aspect too. If I want to be a little selfish in the matter, it's like and I put a perspective as far as if you want to look good for your company, right? And if you
yeah,
use a product such as yourself and you realize you can save the company, 10 grand a month, and you times
mhm,
that over a year, you go to your CEO or your CFO, be like, look, I can save the company $120,000 a year just by doing X, Y, and Z, and who isn't going to look good in front of their boss or anything with that amount of cost savings. That's essentially another body and, another salary or another person, if that. And that actually kind of brings up a good point, because I used to use, and it's kind of a game in order to get another person a body, is, we outsource services and products to like another company until it gets to the point where it gets to an expense that I can then transfer that cost of using said service over into another body and then have another person on my team. And that's kind of the game back and forth. And
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it. Go.
I was going to say, and then, not even that, like just from that perspective, but another attribute that we provide is the ability to do bill pay, right? So think about some of these organizations that have different, and I'm thinking of, physical people that have to do something, right? And where if I could do this with something else, I could have that person or hire another person to do something else within that's going to benefit the organization versus pay a bill, right? So we have the ability to do bill pay, right? So I have all these different invoices as a procurement or as an accounts receivable person, right? Yeah, every day I'm trying to pay a bill because I got them all coming in different times of the month, right? And so I'm doing all that, and what we can do is, as their supplier, they just have to pay us, one person, right? And what we do, we'll take that and we'll pay everybody for them. So it just comes down to, like, if I'm the accounts receivable person or whoever it is, say, okay, I'm just signing it over to Calero. Here's one big number. There you go. And say, okay, we'll take it. Then we do the dirty work, right? We take all of it. We pay all the different carriers. So that's a real big benefit, because we've seen a lot of different, there's a lot of mistakes that that have happened. People are getting sick of doing it, right? I'm like, oh, I got to do this again and again. And it just gets a tedious process for some of those folks where they have to do other things, within the business to make sure it's running and things are going in a good fashion, right? So that's a huge, I should say, benefit to the customer that I've seen the last couple of months come in and be like, yeah, we need someone to do this for us, because I just don't want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, who likes
I'm done.
Bills? Yeah,
exactly. Because no one wants to put, because again, they don't want to put it on auto pay, because again, if they do auto pay, I'm sure they're gonna miss something, right? It's I'm gonna get overcharged, right, or something like that. And then they say, okay, bring it to us and we'll make sure that it's not getting overcharged, and we'll do the auto pay that way. So you're auto paying, but you're paying us.
You're in trusting hands, at least that you won't overpay. Exactly. You auto pay, but you won't overpay.
Right. And we'll see the dispute, so we can make sure that's disputed before you're paying, the wrong balance, so to speak.
Awesome. That's a lot of different things to think about. I mean, that's good conversations as well. Again, the expense market, it's not something that you commonly hear, at least not something I commonly hear of, at least in the industry itself. So yeah, all good topics. Sal, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate your time. Want to give you any last words, anything you'd like to add to this conversation that we had?
No, I mean, James, it's a pleasure to be on this with you. It was, something that I love talking about from a Calero perspective. Our technology expense management solution is really it's really come across as a big savings for folks. It's going to be very beneficial for our the customers that are out there. And so, we really appreciate you taking the time and having us spread the word about Calero and what we're doing.
Yep. Love talking to industry leaders such as yourself. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for your time today, Sal. Yeah, really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
All right, you take care.
Take care.